Would you like to save up to 30% of your current fuel costs by just changing the way you drive? Not everyone can afford to upgrade to the latest eco-friendly car models. So in this video, we will show how we can use 10 eco-driving tips to make a real difference to our fuel economy. We will be driving a short route twice, and the only thing we will change will be the way we drive the car. We will reset the car's average fuel economy indicator each time, and although it won't give a 100% accurate result, it will be good enough for comparison purposes. At the end of the video, we will use the results to estimate the savings over a whole year of driving, which should be interesting. On this first drive, we will be using eco-driving techniques to maximise the car's fuel economy. The car's engine is already warmed up, and we will be driving a short route on a mixture of roads. Let's set off. At first, the average fuel economy readout on the dashboard doesn't show a reading, but keep an eye on it as we drive, as it will keep updating itself. We usually try to accelerate the car gently, as harsh acceleration is the main cause of poor fuel economy. The harder we press the accelerator down, the more fuel will be injected into the engine. So we press the accelerator gently and smoothly to only use as much fuel as needed. Of course, sometimes we will need to accelerate the car quickly, such as when we're joining a dual carriageway, so we would use as much throttle as we need to keep up with the flow of traffic, and then return to gentle use of the accelerator. Keeping the engine running at its most efficient speed is key to saving fuel, so we should change gear whenever necessary. In a diesel car like this, we would normally keep the engine below 2000 RPM, but if we had a petrol engine, we would use up to 3000 RPM. Most modern cars have a gear change prompt on the dashboard, so we can use this for guidance if needed. On this car, we can see it appear under the outside temperature display. When we need more power, we will sometimes need to use more engine revs, but once up to cruising speed, we would change to the most efficient gear again. We use the lift and roll technique to use the car's momentum to travel for free. Lifting fully off the accelerator for a few seconds before braking for a corner or junction will save loads of fuel, as the car uses no fuel at all when rolling in gear. This technique is part of the skill known as acceleration sense, and when combined with good forward planning can give considerable savings. We can see the average fuel economy reading increase as we lift and roll on approach to each junction. In contrast, lifting off the accelerator pedal and braking immediately wastes the momentum that we had just used fuel to gain. We can see on the map that we are about a third of the way around our drive, and the fuel economy is just under 70 miles per gallon so far. Braking earlier will not only give a smoother ride to our passengers, but it will also save fuel. When we brake, we are turning the momentum our car has into heat within the braking system. Lifting off the accelerator earlier and braking earlier and more lightly will minimise the amount of fuel we are turning into heat, and also extend the life of the car's braking system. We should use our observation skills to read the road ahead, so that we spot bends or hazards ahead as early as possible. This will then allow us to lift and roll more often, which will save more fuel than if we just brake to reduce our speed. This early speed reduction will also give us more time to assess the situation, so there is less chance of making a mistake that might put us in danger. Exceeding the speed limit on major roads is very poor for fuel economy, as our car's wind resistance increases sharply at high speeds. Since air resistance is such a large factor in how much fuel a car uses, the most efficient speed is around 40 miles per hour for most cars. However, we should ensure that we only drive at this speed where appropriate and keep up with the flow of traffic, as driving unnecessarily slowly will annoy other drivers and cause danger. We are now about 2/3 of the way around our drive, and the fuel economy average is still just under 70 miles per gallon. The faster roads we've just driven did use a little more fuel, but the last section of the route is slower, so we might get a little increase before we stop. Don't take the car out of gear and coast in neutral, or coast with the clutch pedal pushed down, as this actually wastes fuel. When rolling in neutral, the car's fuel injection uses a little fuel in order to keep the engine idling. But when the car is rolling in gear, the car's momentum is turning the engine without using any fuel at all. Coasting out of gear or with the clutch pressed down will also give us less control over the car's speed, so is not recommended on safety grounds. We try not to idle the engine unnecessarily and switch it off when pulled over at the side of the road or when stuck in traffic. Many modern cars have start-stop systems that do this automatically, as this feature can save up to 10% of our fuel on its own. We wouldn't bother turning the engine off if we are only stopping for a few seconds, but we would if we think we might be stopped for 30 seconds or more. When driving in traffic, we look out for other vehicle signals such as an indicator or brake light that show they are about to slow down. When we spot this, we can then lift off the accelerator or brake to reduce our speed and create a little extra space that will allow us to keep rolling whenever possible. Using the car's air conditioning system does use some power from the engine, so this will reduce fuel economy. This is more noticeable when driving at low speed, so unless the air conditioning is really needed, we would switch it off and open a window instead. At higher speeds, the extra aerodynamic drag from open windows will increase fuel consumption, so it's better to keep them closed and use the AC if it's needed. So that's the end of this first drive, and the average fuel economy we achieved with eco driving was 69.8 miles per gallon. Let's reset the fuel economy meter and drive the same route again without using any eco driving techniques. How much difference do you think it will make? As we set off this time, we will be driving normally, but without any consideration for saving fuel. We will still be driving safely and within all speed limits, but we will be accelerating up to speed more quickly and braking much later than before. We will also be using more engine revs in each gear and staying in lower gears more of the time. While we drive, keep an eye on the economy readout and see how it compares to the previous drive. So you have probably worked out by now that eco driving is all about preserving momentum. We use our engine carefully to gain momentum with as little fuel as possible. And then we plan ahead so that we use this momentum to take us as far as possible. Whenever we use the car's brakes, that will turn our momentum back into heat, which is then wasted. So for maximum efficiency, we try to reduce the amount of time we spend braking the car. While we drive the second route, we have 5 extra tips we can use to help our car give its best fuel economy possible. First of all, we always try to keep our cars well maintained. Regular servicing helps the car stay reliable and efficient, as it will keep the engine in tune, which reduces emissions and improves power and fuel economy. In addition, the garage will check the steering and braking systems, which is essential for safety. A correctly inflated tyre has less rolling resistance than an underinflated tyre, so we check our tyre pressures regularly to optimise our fuel economy. Also, when a tyre is underinflated, it will wear out much faster, so we keep an eye on pressures to get the best life from our tyres. Driving around with unnecessary weight in the car will make the engine work harder and as a result use more fuel. If we don't need it, take it out. So that's about a third of the route, and we can see our average fuel economy is just above 40 miles per gallon, which is far lower than last time when it was almost 70 miles per gallon. Roof boxes and roof racks are useful, but they create a lot of extra aerodynamic drag, which will make the car's engine work harder, using more fuel. So we remove everything from the car's roof once it's not needed anymore. If possible, we try to plan our journey in advance so we avoid busy traffic. The constant stopping and starting wastes fuel and is much more stressful for the driver. If we allow plenty of time and drive when the roads are quieter, it is much more enjoyable and efficient. We'll fast forward the video for a little bit. At 2/3 of the route, the economy has improved a little to 45 miles per gallon, but it is still far below last time, when we achieved just under 70 miles per gallon at this point. Let's fast forward to the end to get the final result. So that's the end of the second drive, and we can see that in the exact same car and conditions we achieved 45.8 miles per gallon this time. We completed the route 30 seconds faster than the first time, but used 52% more fuel. We can now estimate how much money we could save over a whole year's driving. If we drove 10,000 miles at an average fuel economy of 45.8 miles per gallon and a fuel price of £1.20 per litre, it would cost us £1,191. That's reasonably efficient, but if we could improve our fuel economy to 69.8 miles per gallon, it would only cost us £782. So in this case, eco-driving could save us £409, or about 34%. Very impressive. So remember, accelerate gently, keep the engine speed low, lift and roll wherever possible, and brake early and lightly. If you found this video interesting, then please click our logo to subscribe to our channel, as it really helps other people find our videos. If you would like to help support this channel, then please click the Patreon link to find out about our crowdfunding campaign.